Morning everyone. I wanted to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, and we're looking at it from the narcissistic abuse point of view. So I'm going to talk about how it comes about really within that relationship. And it's a process, a very cleverly designed process by the narcissist, involving conditioning behaviours, involving using our insecurities and fear, reward. There's lots of different things that go on. But what it essentially does is it strips away, for me anyway, it stripped away my autonomy, in as much as I was scared of making decisions, because every time we decided to do something for us, we'd be followed, or it will get fed back by a flying monkey. And so we kind of became trapped. And then when you're trapped, that's your fear. And fear is what releases the stress chemicals, so cortisol in particular. And it's that continuous high level of cortisol which eventually evolves into PTSD and complex PTSD. And that's what's so hard, is that when you're living in that constant state of not really knowing, not knowing what you can and can't do, not knowing what reaction you're going to get to it, you do one or two things. You live constantly either trapped away, you don't want to do anything because you fear the response, in which case you stop being human and you stop living. And I hear that a lot for people who are still in those relationships, and you see it, that they're not living, they're barely surviving. Or you become agitated, you can become aggressive, you snap easily, or you are emotional, depending on your own personality. And then this all plays into the maintenance of PTSD within that relationship. Even if you're separated and they're using the kids against you, they've told everyone that you're unstable or that you're aggressive and controlling and all of these things. And then because you've got PTSD and you've been conditioned to not trust yourself, to have those high levels of cortisol in your system. Cortisol is the flight or fight or freeze response. But to an uneducated observer, those natural responses to your body chemicals can actually look like confirming all the things that the narcissist is saying about you. And so you become embroiled in this never-ending loop of them conditioning you to behave in a certain way, and then using those natural behaviours against you, and thus exacerbating PTSD and resulting in the development of complex PTSD. And we're going to look into the difference between those two things later, but I felt it was important that we put this into the context of narcissistic abuse. So I'd love to know from your own experience, has what I've said rung true? Are there any things that happened with you that are different? How did it develop within you? I'm playing with my dog and throwing his ball. That's why I keep bending down. And I'll explain why I'm out here doing this as opposed to sat inside delivering it. And it's not just because it's sunny. And so I'd love to hear your experiences. The more we learn about it, the more it can help us to understand. And once we can understand, we can begin to heal. Whilst it's still a confusing mess, we remain in that. We remain in that rabbit in a headlights kind of position. But once you start to understand the process, you can move out of that, and you can move into a place where you take some of the control back, not of the other person, but of yourself and your own reaction. So that's what this is about. This is what we're starting with. What's our understanding? What happened to us? How did we respond to it? And then as we move through, we will develop that, and we'll finally look at how do we move past this? How do we get it under control? How do we stop allowing this abuse by proxy? Essentially, our bodies have become part of the abusive mechanism, because we're trapped in this PTSD, complex PTSD circle. So do comment, and do share what you can, only what you're comfortable with, and it will help us all, and hopefully it will help you to offload and to write it down. Do take care, and obviously there'll be more posts throughout the day. Bye bye.